validity to the top players missing the cut and then not making any money, right? Like you were saying, the analogy to James Harden, he still gets paid. And that's the unique thing about golf. They tee it up Thursday, Friday. You make the cut, you get paid depending on how high you finish. You don't make the cut, you don't get paid. Now, there's sponsorship money and all that with vendors and whatnot. So they're saying, look, okay, I'm a big name player and I'm not getting a check that week. Now, the tour has taken some steps, at least it appears so on the outside, kind of towards massaging that a little bit. I think that like the World Golf Championships and getting the top players together, no cut, guaranteed money is part of that. The PIP, of course, is certainly going to be a big part of that. Yeah, they're throwing money towards the big name players. Although, there's a lot of big name players that they're like, look, I'm probably not going to get much of that because I'm not a big social media guy. I'm not going out there and rewarding people for calling people Brooksy and, like they're just like, that's just not their personality. And I even think like the FedEx Cup's got to be part of that too, right? Like there's more money in the end for the best players and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of things that are happening. They're taking steps towards, but here we are at this point, and Norman's kind of continuing to drive that home. Now I go to this, Daniel, how much clout does Norman have? Because there's going to have to be some recruiting here. Like there's going to have to be some conversations going in. Hey, bud, why don't you come over here and check this out? Right? I got to persuade you to come this way. How much clout does Norman have?
It's a good question because number one, he's what is he, 60? He's 66, I think.
He's 66, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like he played on tour with any of the guys that he's recruiting apart from Phil. And when he was playing, it wasn't like he was Mr. Congeniality. He was famous or infamous for, being kind of a loner, a very driven guy who kind of did things his own way. He wasn't the guy hanging around the locker room and, playing friendly games with other pros. So I think you hit it, you're spot on in the beginning. You said they needed a face, and like, we're very inside golf. So when you say Greg Norman to us, we think of, maybe we think of like the Chokes, and maybe we think of, the World Golf Tour, kind of
one of the greatest drivers to ever play the game.
We think of these things as like, we know the specifics, but for the average fan or like casual sports fan, they hear Greg Norman, they're like, oh, I know who that is.
Sure.
Like I know who Greg Norman is. And I think that's important. That's what they were looking for. But one more thing, I wanted to talk about with the WGCs and the FedEx Cup. Mm-hmm. These fans kind of see through these money grabs, like I think the World Golf Championships, they're down to one event this year. Like I'm not sure I would call that project like a smashing success. Mm-hmm. It had a good run there, I suppose, and with Tiger winning all of them definitely helped. But I don't think that when you just bring all the top players together and fans know that they're all getting a ton of money, it just doesn't really have any juice, right? Like that whole meritocracy, like that's part of the reason why we love the game, because everyone starts in the same position. Every week is a new entity. There's no reward for being a big name. Like we like the fact that you have to go out there and earn your stripes. And, I think we've seen, like you said, the PGA Tour take steps to where they basically are not handing out money to make it a lot easier for guys to make a ton of money. And I just don't know that it like resonates with golf fans. I don't think you can. And then we saw that with the Super League in soccer. You try and jam something through the fans' throats, and soccer's different because it's so hyper local, and people's connections with these teams is a lot deeper than any of our connections with golfers. But when you try and just throw a bunch of money at something and jam it down people's throats, sometimes they react and they say, I don't like this. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if getting all the big players together and paying them millions and millions of dollars, I just don't know if it's going to have that sort of, I don't know how compelling it would be.
Yeah, no, I think I totally agree. Compelling. There's no history. Like it or not, golf is in some ways like baseball, right? Like the history is a bigger part of it. We like telling those stories, keeping the legacy of players' names going with the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Jack Nicklaus has done a great job with his tournament. These guys that meant so much to the game, getting their own tournament. We see it with Tiger. So it's you're not going to get that. You're going to go over there and it's a money grab. And let's say they do get, let's just play a hypothetical for a minute, Daniel. Let's say they get a top 10 player. All right. And we're not going to put names to this, but let's just say they get a top 10 player and they clip off 5 or 6 in the top 50. And then they got to go, okay, now we got to get some other guys. Let's go to the Korn Ferry Tour. Let's go over here to the European Tour. Let's include a couple Asian Tour play, right? And they, off they go with the field, right? And there's all this money. I mean, how are we going to watch it? Like, who's going to cover this? I mean, you start looking at the networks. I mean, ESPN is fully invested with the PGA Tour and the streaming and all that. I mean, they're ABC and ESPN. And then you got NBC and Golf Channel. NBC is fully invested into the Players Championship. And CBS is, a staple in the United States.
That's the thing. It's not, you're not just going against the PGA. You're going against an entire ecosystem that has developed over 50 or 60 years to where it is now. It's not just like a straight swap. I mean, it's going to require just an insane amount of planning and of logistical work. I mean, I'm trying to think of like a comparison for like a totally new league that has overtaken the previous leader since I've been alive. I don't think it's happened. No. And we've seen, what's happened with the NFL, again, not entirely apples to apples because of just how much the NFL dominates a full day on the calendar, but we saw the XFL and the AAFL, and obviously not as deep pocketed, but it's just really hard. There's inertia in fans' minds when something's established as like the PGA Tour is like the pinnacle of golf. It is very, very difficult to overtake that.
Wrestling.
I guess wrestling, but again, wrestling's it's entertainment. It's different. And I don't, I'm not a wrestling guy, so I wouldn't know. But
I'm not either. But there's the company. I'm drawing a blank here of the group here in Jacksonville. Shah Khan's son runs it, and they've done successful. They're not. I don't think the top shelf, but they've been able to go in and capture some market. But yeah, it's an entertainment piece. It's fake. People obviously want to watch more of that, but they can watch it. It's in front of them. It's in the United States. How in the hell are you going to watch this? Right? That's going to be over there. I don't know. It's just like, you're going to quote holistically improve the health of professional golf.
Do they really care?
They don't care about that. This is a personal endeavor, right?
That's the thing. They can lose money on this. Like $200 million might sound like a lot, and it is objectively a lot of money, but for an investment fund that has a reported I think it's $500 billion in assets.
Yeah,
I mean, $200 million is a drop in the bucket. So if they eat a loss of like $50 million, for them, it's not about making money. It's just not. It's about, if you listen to Norman, it's about improving the health of the game, but it's really about improving the reputation of Saudi Arabia. And that's the core goal here. Right. And that's not conjecture. That's what they have said about this public investment fund and this sports initiative, and they've done in other sports, doing in tennis. They're doing it in women's golf big time, and those women, they're paying them so much more money than they can make on the LPGA Tour. It's not even a competition there.
Right.
You can't ask those women to sacrifice making whatever it is more than they're going to make on the LPGA Tour by playing these events. You can't say don't do that because it's not about profit for them. So when you say, how are we going to watch it? It's like, I'm not really sure that even really matters that much. Mm-hmm. For them, it's like, if we have to eat this loss here for like this larger PR play that we're making, it's not going to keep them up at night losing, 10, 20, $50 million.
Yeah. We know what their motive is, right? And over in Saudi to improve the image, right, of what they're trying to do. Like, that's certainly, I think, pretty apparent. And I think for Greg Norman coming in, it's more of a personal endeavor, right, for him. And there's, I guess, a bone to pick to some degree with the PGA Tour. And he's going to try to rally others that might be a little upset. And, Mickelson certainly has been out there kind of chirping a little bit at the PGA Tour.
Flirting.
Yeah. Yeah. And trust me, there's been a conversation between him and Jay Monahan after a couple of his tweets, I would imagine. So, they got to do something, right? Excuse me. Jay's got to do something. They're going to say, look, and they already have, you go you go playing this, and you're not going to play on the PGA Tour. I think he could just be like, look, all right, go do it. Let it run its course. And they'll get a few guys go over there, and it's like, it's going to fizzle out. I mean, your audience, hardcore audience is, all right, tune in here and there. You're going to try to, is this going to attract a new golfer into it, this over there? Like, who's going to watch this thing? There's going to be a few. I think the thing fizzles out, but he's got to do something. I mean, they're going to take a hard stance like they did back in the mid 90s. And they're going to say, look, you go play, it's either us or it's them. Right. And that's where it's going to get really messy, I would imagine. And this is where a bunch of lawyers are going to be in a room. I mean, and I have no idea what's going to happen from there.
I can think of, a Dustin Johnson, not just, pick him just first name that came to mind. Dustin Johnson versus United States of America. Like that could happen, or versus PGA Tour. I mean, we could see definitely a court case where a player decides he wants to do this. The PGA Tour says you can't do it, and he sues them for anti-competition, whatever it would fall under. I'm not going to pretend to be a lawyer, but you can't just, I mean, maybe you can, but if you tell someone that you can't participate in this because you're participating in that, like that's a whole separate conversation about workplace rights. And it's very, very messy. And that could be how this thing ends, and I don't think this is going to overtake the PGA Tour. I mean, I don't know, obviously, but I don't think so. I think what's probably going to happen is it's going to push the tour to make a number of changes that reward their star players more, and probably is a little bit less. The tour it's really good for like the rank and file members right now. Like they can these guys who are not the Jason Kokrak's of the world. They're not that many people are tuning in to watch Jason Kokrak, if we're being honest. But the man won 2 tournaments last year. I don't know where he finished in the FedEx Cup, and he made the tour. He probably made like $5 million last year. And he gets his, good pension, and now he's past champion. So he's going to have some sort of status for a really long time. And, they always say like the hardest part of playing on the PGA Tour is getting on the PGA Tour. Once you're established and once you're there for these rank and file members, it's really good for them. And it's because they kind of had a really good negotiating process when they were writing the rules of the tour. And I think we might see some changes where it's more, it really does reward the stars and prioritize their contentment or happiness more than the rank and file players, because those are the guys you need to keep happy, because every tour is reliant on star power. Yeah.
And I think that'll strengthen the tour. I think in the end, right? Like you need your stars. You really do. And, I made the comment a couple weeks ago, I feel like Tiger's been not playing this year, of course. And I want to say I forgot about Tiger, but for the first time, like I was like, yeah, we're fine. Like, there's a lot of really cool stars here. And I think it all came together with the USA really dominating Europe. Like we have a nice group of young players. You can see it. You can feel it. They're winning major championships. So yeah, I think we have to rally around these stars, and they got to take care of those stars, because PGA Tour, I don't want to say it was carried by Tiger Woods, but he certainly elevated it. He certainly elevated in the purses and whatnot. So, your stars certainly matter. It's a star-driven league. I think in many ways, it's kind of like the NBA. I mean, it's a star-driven league. NFL, maybe not so much. You've got your teams and your alliances and those types of things. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. All right. So you're interviewing someone. Can we mention that or no?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to interview Greg Norman in a bit here and write something about it. So I'm going to ask some of these questions that we have. I'm not entirely sure exactly what he's going to say, but I think we all have the release yesterday led to a lot of questions that we don't have really answers to. And the other thing is, like, I just don't think they have answers quite yet.
Yeah.
I don't think that they have a fully fleshed out concrete plan. Because I think if they did, that they would have mentioned that more, or maybe they're just playing chess and I'm playing checkers here. But yeah, I mean, I think the questions are like, what's going to happen when the tour says you can either do this or you can't do that? When is this going to turn in from a series to a full-on separate tour?
Right.
And I think the question you asked is one that I'm definitely interested in hearing the answer, which is when you say like the health of golf, what is wrong right now? Like what is the actual problem that you are seeking to solve?
That would be one I would ask. And here's the other. I would ask them, what are your tactics? What are going to be your tactics, your plan when you make that call, or you sit down for dinner, a glass of wine with the player to persuade them to come over and play on your tour? You know, like,
I'm sure he's thinking long and hard about that, because that's going to be, that's his number one job. That's his number one job. That's why I hired him, because
it is.
Without players, there's no tour.
Well, I know you're prepping, man. This is when's it going to be released so we can tell what it's going to be on Golf Digest?
Yeah, hopefully later today, I would guess.
Later today.
Not entirely sure. We'll see how it goes. I mean, these things you never know. But
hey, and also congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was a good one.
You really can't anticipate. I remember when I asked my wife, I was like, I got the ring and I was going to ask her 2 days later, and I was like literally like hyperventilating the first night. And I was like, I have to ask right now because I can't go 2 more days like this.
Kind of what happened. It was funny. I'll tell you one quick story before I go. We were at dinner the night before with a couple who were a friend of ours, and they were saying, "Oh, we're going to this engagement party tomorrow night. You know, it's a surprise party. The woman doesn't know that he's going to propose. They're going to propose, and it's going to be this whole party." Mm-hmm. And my then girlfriend kind of looks at me and gives me, and I'm like, "I'm literally proposing tomorrow. Just wait 24 hours." And I couldn't say anything, so I'm proud of the poker face I kept.
Oh man. I would say it's the most nervous I've ever been, for sure. There's no question about it.
It was tough. It was tough. Your stomach feels pretty light for sure.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I know my mouth is moving. Is a voice coming out? Like, what is happening right now? I can see her face. Is she happy? Anyway, what did you say? Yes or no? Okay. It's like one of those kind of moments that you see in the movies.
Definite wooziness for sure.
All right, Daniel Rapaport, we appreciate it. Good luck with Greg Norman. We'll be waiting for that, and we'll read it later on Golf Digest today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back tomorrow looking ahead to Mayakoba on the PGA Tour.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, dude.